Hey folks, welcome to another day, another unboxing. This is the Blackview BV9800 Pro. This is a rugged phone since really that's what Blackview's bread and butter is. But the cool thing about it is that it's got a thermal camera by FLIR. And as you know, I have made videos of CAT's phones with FLIR cameras before. So this is exciting to me. I've also recently reviewed a very similar phone from another Chinese company called Ulefone, which I'll put up here, and I'll put my CAT reviews up here right after as well. So I like rugged phones, and it's always cool when they come with FLIR thermal imaging. So that's the box, and as you can see here, it's got Blackview thermal imaging by FLIR, a bunch of stuff on the sides, not too much except for the Blackview logo. And in the back, we've got a bunch of specs here. Android 9. This is actually a Helio P70 MediaTek processor, 6 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of RAM. It's got 16 megapixels plus 48 megapixel plus thermal imaging plus 5 megapixel. The 16 is the front. 6.3 inch 1080p display and a whopping 6,580 milliamp hour battery. Yep, you heard that right. That's pretty amazing. So let's open up this box and take a look at this interesting but pretty large phone. Nothing in here. Boom. How big is that for you? Seems to be a screen protector here. European AC adapter. Not sure what the specs are. I'll put this up. So yeah, this has a USB-C connector. As you can see, there's USB-C to Type A cord right here. And then we've got earbuds, which is nice. And the earbuds are 3.5 millimeters. Very exciting. This actually has a headphone jack, so that's cool. And then I'm not sure what this is about. There's a little Blackview, looks like a guitar pick, but it's thinner than that. And then a SIM removal tool right here. You can see it. The phone itself is right here and comes with some kind of screen protector. Tells you a little bit about it. Blackview rugged outdoor smartphone BV9800 Pro. It's pretty heavy, probably over than 200 grams for sure. There's a screen protector here. As you can see from the cut, it's got a teardrop notch. And then we've got a little manual action here. And it tells you all the controls here really quickly, which is cool. All right, so let's really quickly take a look at the phone, shall we? So there it is. It's pretty big, thick but not ridiculously thick. It is a rugged phone after all. Here we go. And ta-da! We also have a screen protector, so I'm going to peel that off. Oh yeah, that sounds nice. And there it is. Interestingly, there's still another screen protector on here. You can see there's an actual bubble in the display right there. And if you look very carefully right here up by the camera, front camera, you can see that there's actually a screen protector on there. So I'm going to remove that at some point because I don't want that bubble. Clearly, when they applied the screen protector in the factory, it wasn't the most clean environment. All right, so let's turn it on. Hopefully it's charged. There we go, Blackview, powered by Android. So what do you need to know about this phone? I've already told you most of the specs. There's a Helio P70 MediaTek chip in there, 6 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage. That's okay, those are mid-range specs. This is a $500 phone, right? Which is a pretty great price when you consider that it's got a FLIR camera built in. Like, until now, you really had to go almost to $1,000 to get a phone that was a rugged phone with a FLIR camera. So that's actually a pretty big deal in my opinion. The display is very bezel-y. You expect that because it is, after all, a rugged phone. 6.3 inch with a teardrop notch, and of course, as I said, lots of bezel. I think it's an IPS panel, and as I mentioned, it does have a 6,580 milliamp hour battery, which is massive. As you can see, the camera systems are back here. The thing that doesn't look like it has a lens behind it here is the FLIR camera. Very nicely integrated on the CAT phones. The FLIR camera was kind of like a bit of a lump sticking out in this weird way, so this is nice to see. A rubberized back, very grippy, very strong. It looks like there's a place here to put a lanyard, as you can see. And then some speaker holes. Now, of course, this is waterproof, dustproof, etc., etc. Let's talk about those cameras. So the main sensor, one of these two, is a 48 megapixel Sony IMX586. That's a pretty big deal. That's a good sensor that with proper software can perform really well. I don't know the details in terms of f-stops. I don't think it'll have OIS, but you never know, we might be surprised. The secondary sensor is a 5 megapixel depth sensor. Of course, the FLIR sensor I mentioned already, and then we have a flash here, right? So this is what feels like some sort of plastic or metal cover. Might be plastic. The edges are definitely metal though. It feels like an anodized aluminum, which is nice. On the right hand side here we have a power lock key, as you can see. Some sort of SIM tray. So it says TransFlash and SIM card, so that's a SIM and micro SD tray. I don't have enough fingernails to pull this open, but it probably just slides out and has a gasket around it. Then there's a fingerprint sensor that's separate from the power lock key, so right here. On the other side, on the left hand side, you have the volume rocker, and what I assume is some sort of programmable key that you can use for push to talk or SOS or something like that. It says waterproof right here. On the bottom here you have a USB Type-C port. I can't open this without much nails, but you know what it would look like. And the exciting thing is that on the top here you have a headphone jack behind this gasket, which I can't open without nails, and then you have a infrared transmitter. So that's interesting. You don't see that often on a rugged phone, the infrared part. So yeah, lots of bezel. It is a nice looking display though. The colors are cool. It's IPS obviously, and you know, in terms of specs, this thing is pretty loaded, which is really quite nice for a rugged phone. It's nice that there's a fingerprint sensor. Cat doesn't put fingerprint sensors in their phones, which is really annoying. And they didn't skimp on that. And the battery, of course, a 6580 milliamp hour, and this interesting imaging system in the back. So I'm looking forward to trying this out, and especially the FLIR thermal camera is a pretty cool addition. I've had it again before on the Cat phone, so I'm familiar with it. I've also played with the adapters that FLIR sells that turn your normal iPhone or Android phone into a thermal camera attachment. So I've had those too, but having it built in just adds a whole new dimension, right? If you're a contractor and you need to like find an electrical fault in a panel or like look for heat leaks in an air conditioning system or like in plumbing, you're gonna be able to find that very easily with a thermal camera. Even if you're a mechanic, you can point a thermal camera at a car engine and get a good feel for where the hot spots are. And if you find a hot spot in a place that is not supposed to be a hot spot, then you know you've got a problem. So yeah, I think for some people this is gonna work. And finally at the $500 mark, I think this is good. The specs are a little bit lower range than what you can get for $500 without the rugged stuff. So, you know, Helio P70 is a good chip, 6 gigs of RAM is enough, 120 gigs of storage is okay, you can expand it with micro SD. But I feel that all that extra stuff you get for $500 is very impressive. That's a really good price considering it's got the FLIR camera built in. And they didn't skimp on the hardware in terms of like things like the Sony 48 megapixel camera and the battery, etc. So it's good to see. Like a lot of these Chinese phones, you know, the UI isn't really very well optimized to these very rounded corner displays. You can see the batteries cut off here. It's always kind of amusing to see that. But you know what? My experience with these phones, like the Yuli phone that I mentioned before, that I actually took with me to Burning Man and survived just fine. These phones are going to give you a lot of ruggedness for the money, and I think that's what you're buying here. You're not going to look at details like this and worry about them too much. So that's it, folks. This is the Blackview BV9800 Pro with FLIR imaging. Please stay tuned for more unboxing videos, and I will be discussing this phone on my podcast. This is the Mobile Tech Podcast channel. After all, it is a complement to the Mobile Tech Podcast at mobiletechpodcast.com. Please listen to the show and subscribe. It's on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Spotify, pretty much everywhere. And then, of course, subscribe to this channel, like the video, click on the little notification bell below, and remember to comment and let me know, what do you think of rugged phones? What do you want to see in a rugged phone? Do you think this is a good deal at $500 considering it has FLIR imaging? Tell me down there, and stay tuned for more content soon. Cheers, everybody.